with it. And but of course, the way the ABC spins it, it's much more sinister than that. And they use the phrase vacuum-sealed plastic bags, and they actually show a photograph of someone with gloves on holding a vacuum-sealed plastic bag. I suspect that the photo that they're showing there is a stock image, and that it has nothing to do with actually. And I'm actually now questioning whether the statement that the drugs were in vacuum-sealed plastic bags is even correct. Because it's a statement they could easily...
Can I tell you this? I think that is true. I do think that Tony kept some in the freezer.
Right.
I think I remember talking to him about it there, sort of thing. But we're not talking about, we're talking about vacuum seal bags that, not huge things like... the
4.2 kilos that was in Schapelle's bag.
Like sandwich bag type thing, It's not very big. It's about 8 inches square.
Okay. Well, that's a good point. Well, look, let's just continue playing from here. Cheers.
September 2004, the Queensland Police raided Tony Lewis's property and discovered 5 kilos of marijuana in vacuum-sealed plastic bags and thousands of dollars in cash. In a recent documentary about Schapelle Corby, Tony Lewis denied that his next-door neighbour knew about his marijuana crop.
Mick knew nothing. No, I never ever told me. He would have got right into me and say, no way in the world, boy, you'll end up in the slammer or something. Mick would have just done that, yes.
So you haven't heard from Tony Lewis in that 2 years?
Tony who?
Kim Moore tipped off the police about Tony Lewis's marijuana operation. A one-time heroin user, she kicked the habit 25 years ago and was living near Tony Lewis and Michael Corby's farms. She says she first met Michael Corby as a man called Mick at the local pub with Tony Lewis.
We're having a couple of drinks at the bar and Tony and came in. Anyway, and we're sitting there talking for a little while and then this other gentleman came in and I was introduced to him as Mick.
On September the 16th, 2004, 3 weeks before Schapelle Corby's arrest in Bali, Kim Moore made a statement to the Queensland Police. Her statement became the basis of a Queensland Police crime intelligence report. It says,
information is that along with a person with the name Michael is also involved with the transport of these drugs. The informant suggests large quantities are being moved to Bali.
Kim Moore has confirmed to the ABC that the Michael she named 3 weeks before Schapelle Corby's arrest was Michael Corby Sr.
Old Michael Corby is very close to Tony Lewis and he is involved with the making that Tony does with his drugs and the running.
Queensland Police say they have no evidence to link anyone else to the drugs found on Tony Lewis's property. The ABC has obtained the...
Isn't that interesting that the police are not interested in this?
Yeah.
Now, the ABC are treating it as a top billing story, which I think they aired on a Friday night. Correct me if I'm wrong, and which then hit all the newspapers on the Saturday. It was a massive story.
Yeah, they always do that. The ABC, they do it on the Friday night, and then they can't. All the other papers pick it up because they can't check.
The facts,
the sources and so forth, and then by Monday they realise that it's a lot of rubbish, but by that time the damage is done.
Then they're sort of backpedaling, but people just remember the mud being flung. They don't remember anything else.
I just can't get over the soundtrack.
Oh, the soundtrack is like a horror movie, isn't it? I mean, it
really is so sick. It is so craftily put together, this hit piece. It really is.
I'm really glad you're actually with us on this episode, Josh, because when I watched this, I had chills running down my spine to discover something so wicked in my own country, and I wasn't even aware of it.
Yeah,
Kim Moore wasn't a credible witness when the court case with Jodie Power and Mercedes. She was brought in as a witness, and when they asked, because she said that she met Mercedes at Michael's place, and she'd never been to Michael's place, and we all knew that. So we said, it was asked what was distinctive about the property, what were the dogs like. She couldn't say, she couldn't remember. All she said, I can't remember. There's a distinctive gate. There's even peacocks running around there, and people would normally remember there was a peacock. People normally remember dogs, let alone not what type of dog they were. They normally remember their names. She couldn't remember anything. She was really laughed out of court. Anyone sitting in that courtroom, I wasn't there, but I was relayed this on a nightly basis of what actually happened. And what the press was writing in the papers wasn't a reflection of what was going on in the courtroom. And like the jury took, I think, 3 hours or 2 hours or something. It was only a very short period of time to find for Mercedes.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Kim Moore was the only witness that Channel 7 was able to get to corroborate...
Jodie's mum.
Oh, that's right, and Jodie Power's mum. Now, we haven't really got into the topic of Jodie Power on this show. I think we're going to have to do a whole other show on Jodie Power. It's too long. But just for now, I'll just quickly explain that Jodie Power was a friend of Schapelle who turned on Schapelle and went to Channel 7 with an incredible story of just extreme defamation, claiming that the entire family was involved in drugs, and that Schapelle's sister Mercedes then launched a defamation case, which finally went to was it Supreme Court or went to court in New South Wales, and Mercedes Corby completely won the case. Stuart Littlemore QC was representing her and tore to shreds the entire defamation case. And it links into the Kim Moore issue here because Kim Moore was brought in as a witness. Now, Kim Moore is allegedly, according to this piece, Kim Moore is a police informant, and yet the police themselves are saying they have no evidence. There's things here that don't add up.
No.
We need to find out from the police whether or not Kim Moore, A, is really an informant, B, whether or not she's lying. Because...
Or whether she even put a report in, like he says. I wouldn't be surprised if
Indeed.
There was no such report.
Yes.
There's so many other lies that he's told that it just begs the question, was the whole premise of his story a lie?
And when you consider the kind of resources that Channel 7 would have had and the money they were willing to spend...
Witnesses, to find someone else, to find someone that would say, yes, I bought marijuana from Schapelle, or, I've known Mercedes too. They couldn't find anyone. I
mean, even if they could have said something about Mick Corby, it still would have helped their case. They couldn't even say anything about Mick Corby. Anyone
because they've got nothing to do. They're just working class family, unfortunately. And the more you trying to defend something, if you say something about anyone, whether or not, just say for instance, you call someone a pedophile, that person has to defend themselves. If they don't defend themselves and just let it go, well then they go, they don't. The Australian public will go, he didn't react to that. There must be some truth to it. So then you turn the other way and you go, he's a pedophile, and they say, I'm not a pedophile. And they go, he protests too much. So there must be something to it. So no matter which way you try and defend yourself, the Australian public will find a way to find you guilty.
Well, look, just look back at the Dingo Got My Baby case. It's exactly what you just described. The public all you need to do is put a little bit tinge of music. Either happy music will turn everyone to say, yeah, she's positive, or sad music or negative music behind a shifty eye. You can make anything out of anything, and editors know that.
He around the Pope and played that sort of music, and he could look guilty.
Oh, absolutely. And this is the sick thing about this irresponsibility of the media to air such absolute filth, absolute rubbish.
Well,